We're building a 1960s inspired supercar based off a Porsche Boxster chassis that we got for $500.
And we put my dad's Mustang engine in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to this whole puzzle, which is why we're calling it Jigsaw.
Last week we put in our roll hoop, but we didn't have any support for that, and we needed to tie in the rear suspension.
Yeah, so this week we're tying in the rear suspension, gusseting that, adding lightness with some speed holes, and going behind the science with that as well. And
Love speed holes.
He loves the speed holes.
I love speed holes.
You'll see that throughout the whole video. Don't worry about that. And also on top of all that, we're trying a new process for designing the body on this car, and we're gonna get that ball rolling in this video as well. So stay tuned, because there's gonna be a lot in this video. I went from 30 seconds. That's not good.
Ryan, show me how to use this arc droid.
I'm busy. Can you tell I'm busy? It's home.
Exciting times, my friend.
This isn't gonna work. He won't stop quoting the same movie in the same phrase.
But not correctly.
This is like dealing with me all day, but
right.
Worse.
But in reverse.
Wait.
It
might be better, actually. Alright, so turn our droid on. First thing you have to do is home it so it knows where it's at. I feel like a foreman at like a job is watching the guy do the work. It's a pretty sweet gig. Yep.
Yeah, right about there.
Okay. And then so now you have your your palette of tools.
So hit run.
Tony's first plasma cut.
Yeah.
Well, arc droid.
Right. Arc droid cut.
Yeah. He's very particular about the fact that it's.
I can use a plasma cutter, but that was way quicker and
more precise.
Finer. Yeah.
All right. So now is the fun part. So you have one. You need two, right?
Right. Yep.
So.
It won't pick it up.
It's like a Family Guy skit.
Look.
Wow, indeed. Certainly not an upcoming design reveal.
All right, we got our plates cut out on the arc droid, cleaned up the paint. Now we can weld them in. We cut this hole out. This is actually where the bolt comes through from the bottom for the rear subframe. So we cut this out so this will lie flat and we can tie it in. And so our top and our bottom will tie together. So Eastwood sent us a tubing notcher, which couldn't be more timely because I have just finished using the gauge to determine the coping on the end of this tube, and I'm not even sure I could accomplish that with our previous tubing notcher.
Dude, that thing sucks. Like, I hate that thing. I texted our Eastwood rep while I was using it last week, and I was like, please send me one of these before I throw this thing through the window, because the previous one we had was their very old model, and it was falling apart.
And worn out. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking like a 15-plus-year-old piece of machinery. That looks much beefier.
That is beefy.
What?
You didn't agree with me, but.
So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to 3D scan the chassis of Jigsaw, and it's going to take a couple scans, probably like 5 or 6. We're going to have to mesh together. And then once I scan it, I'm going to slap it into the computer, and then we'll go from there. This is going to be an exciting process that's going to be new for us, because I think it'll save us a bunch of time and make the design process a little bit easier. You like my drink stack here? I've been having a time in the computer. So I have my scans here. I've imported them into Fusion 360 here, right? So here's the scans. There's 5 different scans I have meshed together. All I needed to do was get the main high points for the main thing we're doing here. So the goal here is for me to make a very rough 3D model that's kind of getting all the high points we just scanned. I'm gonna 3D print that at 1/5 scale, kind of piece it together, and then we're going to use clay on top of that to model the actual body of the car. The benefit here is that since it's only 1/5 scale, we can get it done a lot faster. And then the other benefit as well is because I will know exactly where our constraints are for the body. So if there's chassis components that need to stay there, they're gonna be in plastic. So I'll know when I dig through the clay and hit it. It's like hitting the bone. You don't wanna hit the bone. So you can see on here, when I turn my bodies back on, I have something started. It's pretty rough, but it's getting there. I'm gonna turn off the scans. So we have this rough chassis coming across so far. I have the front trunk here, I have the windshield, which was a pain to make. I'm not that great at 3D modeling. I have a main roll hoop, and the rear suspension points. So I just really got to add the wheels yet, and come up with a system that I want to have a base also that I can kind of sit up on, that's 3D printed, so that when you're doing the clay work, it's not sitting on the table and just kind of sliding around, because that takes a lot of force to do. So we're getting there.
So this is the kind of piece of tubing that's a real pain in the butt because it fits in between two pieces. We also had this that we had to notch around, and this is cut off on this angle and coped on this angle. So a lot going on. So starting with a piece of tubing that was too short, we lined it up where we wanted it and slowly got it pointed to where we wanted by cutting and grinding out here where this needs to come in here. Now that we've got this able to get into the proper position, Ryan's using Ryan's little thingy. Using Ryan's little thingiverse contour gauge, we've determined the angle of this cut. We'll start with that, and when we're finished with that, we'll come in and do this fish mouth with our new Eastwood tubing notcher. Hard to tell exactly. Oh wait, it's going to slide back. It's going to slide back here and get coped into there, which will make it better. Very unusual actually. I didn't have my wallet.
All right, so I have my 3D model here roughed in. There's some rough patches on it, but they don't really matter. Like, this is kind of a mess, but you know, it's gonna be under clay anyway. So now I need to cut it into 4 little quadrants, and so I can actually fit it on our printer. Print them. I have 2 printers that can fit the scale. It's gonna be 5th scale, so it's gonna be like, I don't know, like that big. So I gotta cut it down and kind of interlock it together. It's kind of exciting, honestly. My early morning face doesn't say it's exciting, but I'm excited.
All right, I'm getting ready to notch this piece of tubing at the end, and we're not using a tubing notcher this time because the angle on this is so steep, and also it is getting notched off center on this piece of tubing. So our tubing notcher won't notch off center, and we're going back to some medieval stuff.
Medieval stuff. Also, Tony uses a plasma cutter from the future.
It ain't bad. You know, we still have to cut that end off, and then this will slide into there, and I think once we do that, it's going to be real close, which is what you're after.
That does look nice, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, it looked really funky, you know, when it was drawn on there, and I'm like, I don't know, but I'm going to follow the process.
Go.
Yeah.
The real question is, are you going to cope the other and have it actually fit?
Well,
if you go too short, you're done.
I know. Yeah.
Dunzo.
I know.
Waste
What
the
are you
tube.
talking about? I just put a little piece of tube in the middle. It's fine.
Let's grind it smooth, then we'll know.
Yeah.
Until we roll the car over, then we'll know.
Just don't roll the car over. It'll be
That's
fine.
what I say. Just don't crash the car. You don't need the safety stuff. You don't crash the car.
Like Britney Spears when she shaved her head. Let me see.
I think we're about to the edge of the tire.
All right. Well, if it's there, I'd say 173.5.
All right, let's see if it matches the computer. 1750. I think that's close enough. I also adjusted the wheels like a little bit in the program because these are cambered. I made them 0 camber.
Oh, they made them all 0 camber, right?
Yeah, which
is
would
going to
make
change
it go wider. So I think we're okay. We're just double checking that the scan data and what I modeled actually matches the car itself before I do all this printing that takes multiple days, because that would suck if it doesn't.
If it was wrong. Yeah.
The other major one I want to know is from the front of the car to the back of the car.
All right.
We can do that quick. I hate it here.
402.5.
402.5?
Yeah.
All right, let's see what the computer says. Because mine's also probably shrunk a little bit.
You were in the pool?
Ah! This is 391. But I also like went within, like I cut off like flanges we didn't need and stuff. Like this, for example. I think I cut this back to here.
You think you did?
Yeah. I'd rather the computer be a little bit shorter anyway because we don't need all that. Pretty close. Look, it'll fit in 4 pieces. That's 5th scale right there.
So we are catching this on the bend, and the cope, it makes the cope a little more complex. Here it's going to come in straight in from the side and on the center, but then on this side you can see we're in the middle of the bend and it drops away. So we'll cope in from this side, and then we're going to have to come in from the other side at a different angle and catch in a different spot so that this ends up all nice and pretty like we want it.
This is what happens when the bed shifts. But that's okay. We had 2 successful prints overnight. The big boy here finished. I had to get a little creative here with my supports because the support failed on the bottom, so I just taped it back to it. And it resumed activity just fine. This one's done as well. So I have 3 more of this size to do, and 1 more of these big boys. And we'll have a 6th size scale model. If I did not go over it earlier, we changed it to 1/6 size instead of 5th scale because 5th was just a little bit too big to print in 4 pieces. And again, it's 6s also because it's printed a little smaller, but we're doing 6th scale now, which is gonna be plenty big because this is only a quarter of that, so plenty big.
Moment of truth.
Sounds like you need a big hammer, Tony.
Well, I don't know I need a big hammer. We might have flexed this, but it's pretty darn close. Ooh.
Is that loud?
Yeah, it's very loud. Now that we have our support tubes for our roll bar, we're going to go ahead and make some gussets that support our shock tower and both of these tubes.
All right, so while Tony is working on his flanging and gusseting and dipple dyeing and other things, I'm gonna work on welding these roll bars in. Tony, does that mean I can cut this out finally? Now that I have this welded?
Yes, you can cut that out. Hey Ryan, do you know what happens when you put the drill bits back in the index?
No.
I know.
That wasn't as satisfying as I thought it was going to be. I feel like a vendor at some flea market, like, what are you buying? Well, we had another failed print, but I'm gonna save this one. The layer shifted near the end because the head got stuck somewhere and it jumped some teeth in the drive belt. But, I mean, I'm just gonna sawzall the top off, slide it over, because the main thing we needed to keep was the outside shape, and this is still fine, so I think we'll be okay. Not to mention that it took 15 hours to print this, and I don't want to wait another day. Pry bar. Step 2, the most satisfying thing ever. Ready? Crispy. That hurt my hand. All right, so I have a theory. It worked! So to save this, what I'm doing is I have my properly printed piece. I have it splinted against it with some tape. This aligned up top. And a little trick here, if you use the same filament as you printed with and like a soldering iron, you can just kind of melt it in the gaps and shmoo it in. And it'll work because it's the exact same plastic.
This would have to cave in for that to work the way I had that. And then the other time is if that's the case, the size of them or where they end. I wonder, actually, that pipe like that, yeah, I think that should just come into there, like that right there. Here. Need your bend to come to this point.
Using the table as a jig.
Then I want to look at that corner system.
All right, so now this is glued together. I'm still waiting on the last rear piece to print. It's gonna be a couple hours. But I'm not gonna let that stop me. So what I'm gonna need to figure out now is how I'm gonna mount this to this table. This table's gonna be our workbench for all the clay work we're about to do. So I need to come up with a way to make it float here so we can work around it. This is like the ugliest piece of wood I've ever seen in my life, but it might work. So I want to mount the car to the table, but I don't want like clamps in my way, and I want to use this nice metal surface, so. This is gonna be a challenge because my bit sucks. Make sure it's square.
Yes, you can bounce on it now, Ryan. Right, and the reason you can bounce on it now is because we've got this all welded in. So we've got our roll hoop in, we've got our supports in. Not only do our supports support our roll bar, they support our rear suspension. Our roll bar, the original roll bar weighed in around 25 pounds. Our new roll hoop plus our supports are probably about 36. So only, 10, 11 pounds, not bad. Anytime you have tubes coming together like this, you want to add gussets. We also want to support this corner so that it's not rocking around, but we don't want to do it with a bunch of heavy plate because we don't want to add to the scale. We're going to use sheet metal, but we're going to use speed holes to do it.
Can add lightness.
Thank you, Colin. All right, so we used the pattern, we cut this out, we bent it, and we drilled it. So now it's ready for the fun stuff. Now, if you noticed, we have a couple different size holes here, and that's because the larger dies have a punch that will punch the hole out that we need, whereas these three smallest ones do not. And so you have to have the hole cut already, and then this shoulder sits inside, like so. You just thread that on there. Shoulder seated. Boom. Speed hole. Then the larger ones have the punch. That on the bottom side. You want to make sure that all your threads and everything are lubed up really well. The punching dies also have a bearing here, but other than that, the process is the same. You just crank this in. There's our hole, and there is the piece punched out. All right, so we got all of our flares in, and now we just got a little trimming to do to get that to fit real nice, and we'll weld it in. All right, looks like this one's ready to go. Just got to make the other side. Yeah, that's right. Close. We'll finish the fitting after we get the holes in there.
I printed the same side twice. And I don't know how that happened because I was meticulous when I exported these files.
Yeah.
Let's go check the computer. Oh no! Alright, so here's Jigsaw print quad 3, which is 3 of the 4 I had to print, right? You can see that it's that side, right? The passenger rear. And then file 4 is this one. It's the same file. I exported the same file twice. Just have that in his bigger jobs.
Okay, so I wanted to weigh this pre and post holes and dimple dies, but I forgot and I drilled these holes already. So we'll see what it weighs before we punch the rest of the holes out. And then we'll throw these on. Oh, look at that. And then we'll throw those on for good measure. And that is what it weighs pre-holes. So 1.7, I don't even know what, yeah, 1.73, or we'll switch to grams, 661 grams. The correct number 4 printed last night and is finished, but Ryan was coming in late today, so we're gonna mess with him. This is the duplicate Ryan printed the first time. We're gonna switch it out for his correct one so he thinks he printed the same side for the 3rd time in a row. I'm gonna try and glue it on to this bed so that it seems like it's coming off for the first time. Hopefully he's not paying too much attention.
Tony, you're never gonna believe this.
Don't tell me you printed it wrong again.
Thanks. There's hair stuck to it. Thanks.
So we got our gussets welded in, and with our speed holes installed, the parts are 20% lighter than they were without them.
That's surprising. I honestly thought it would be more like 10% lighter.
Yes, 20% lighter and stronger at the same time.
That is definitely a win-win. Also, throughout this video, you've seen me 3D scan, 3D model, 3D print these parts, and then we glued them together to be the skeleton of the chassis that we are building, and we're gonna eventually put some clay around this, and we're gonna model what the body's gonna look like. And the best part about this, in this whole process, is 1/6 scale, so we can scale it back up later. And we have a guide now to know that the body will actually fit the running gear and everything else that needs to be on the car.
It's a skeleton for Halloween.
Yeah, and the clay is like the meat, except less delicious. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week, and make sure to come back so you can see what this car is actually going to end up looking like. I know you guys have been asking a lot, so come back, please.
I'm excited.
You don't look very excited, Tony.
All right, this is my excited.
Why are you like this?